Subscribe to my YouTube channel for deeply emotional, romantic, and mature stories that echo through your heart. Don't forget to like, share, and comment to support meaningful storytelling. The rain fell in sheets against the windows of the old Victorian house, each drop creating a rhythm that seemed to match the beating of Daniel's heart. He stood on the porch, his hand frozen halfway to the brass knocker, wondering if he should have come at all. 3 years. 3 years since he'd last seen Elena, and now here he was, drawn back to her like a moth to flame. The door opened before he could knock. "I was wondering when you'd finally work up the courage," Elena said, her voice carrying that same gentle warmth that had haunted his dreams. She stepped aside, gesturing for him to enter. "Come in, Daniel. We need to talk." As he crossed the threshold, he heard something that made his blood run cold, the soft but unmistakable sound of the lock clicking into place behind him. When he turned, Elena was already walking down the hallway, her silhouette disappearing into the shadows of the house he'd once known so well. But why had she locked the door? And what did she mean by, "We need to talk"? Daniel followed her deeper into the house, his footsteps echoing on the hardwood floors. The familiar scent of jasmine and old books filled his nostrils, transporting him back to evenings spent curled up together on the sofa, her head resting on his shoulder as rain drummed against these same windows. The house looked exactly as it had when they'd lived here together, as if time had stood still in this place while the rest of the world moved on. Elena led him to the living room, where a fire crackled in the fireplace. She'd changed, her dark hair was longer now, cascading past her shoulders in waves that caught the firelight. She wore a simple black dress that hugged her curves in ways that made Daniel's throat tighten with memory and longing. But it was her eyes that stopped him cold. Those deep green eyes that had once looked at him with such love now held something else, something guarded and sad. "Sit," she said, settling into the armchair across from the sofa where they'd spent countless evenings. "Please." Daniel remained standing, his hands shoved deep in his pockets. "Elena, you left," she interrupted, her voice barely above a whisper. "You left without saying goodbye, without explaining why." The words hit him like physical blows. He'd known this moment would come eventually, had rehearsed what he might say 1,000 times in his mind. But now, faced with the reality of her pain, all his carefully prepared words crumbled to dust. "I had to," he said finally, his voice hoarse. "You know I had to." "No, Daniel, I don't know. That's the problem." Elena's composure cracked slightly, revealing the hurt beneath. "One day we were talking about marriage, about the future we'd build together. The next day you were gone. Your things, your clothes, that little coffee mug you loved so much, all of it just gone. Like you'd never existed at all." Daniel closed his eyes, remembering that morning 3 years ago. He'd waited until Elena left for work, then systematically erased every trace of himself from their shared life. It had been the hardest thing he'd ever done, but he'd convinced himself it was necessary, kinder somehow than the alternative. "I left you a letter," he said weakly. "A letter?" Eleanor's laugh was bitter. 3 lines, Daniel. 3 lines after 2 years together. "I have to go. Don't try to find me. I'm sorry. That's all you gave me. That's all our love was worth to you." The accusation hung in the air between them like a living thing. Daniel wanted to cross the room, to take her in his arms and explain everything. The phone call that had shattered his world, the impossible choice he'd been forced to make, the way he'd died a little more each day since leaving her. But the distance between them felt insurmountable, filled with hurt and misunderstanding. "It wasn't like that," he said. "God, Elena, it was never like that." "Then what was it like?" She stood up, her movements sharp with suppressed emotion. Because I've had 3 years to imagine every possible reason why the man who claimed to love me could just vanish. 3 years to wonder what I did wrong, what I said, what I failed to be. You didn't do anything wrong. The words tore from his throat. You were perfect. You were perfect. That's what made leaving so easy. So impossible. Daniel finally looked at her directly, letting her see the pain he'd carried for 3 years. Leaving you was the hardest thing I've ever done. It nearly killed me. Elena stared at him for a long moment, her chest rising and falling with rapid breaths. The fire crackled in the silence, casting dancing shadows on the walls. Outside, the rain continued its relentless assault on the windows. Then why? She whispered. If it was so hard, if you loved me the way you claimed, why did you leave? Daniel sank onto the sofa, his head in his hands. The weight of 3 years of silence pressed down on him like a physical force. He'd promised himself he would never tell her the truth, that some secrets were too dangerous to share. But sitting here in their old living room, surrounded by memories of their happiness, he found his resolve crumbling. My father, he said finally. He found out about us. Elena frowned. Your father? Daniel, you told me he was dead. He might as well be. Daniel's voice was bitter. Thomas Carver isn't the kind of man who deserves to be called a father. He's a criminal, Elena. The kind of man who destroys everything he touches. The revelation hung between them like a bridge neither was sure they should cross. Elena slowly sat back down, her eyes never leaving his face. You never told me, she said softly, because I was trying to protect you from him, from that part of my life. Daniel raised his head, meeting her gaze. I changed my name when I turned 18. Became Daniel Hayes instead of Daniel Carver. I thought I'd escaped him. Thought I could build a normal life. And for a while, with you, I almost believed it was possible. What happened? Eleanor's voice was gentle now, the anger temporarily replaced by concern. He found me. Found us. Daniel's hands clenched into fists. He'd been watching us for months, learning about your life, your routine. He knew where you worked, where you went for coffee, which route you took home. He had photographs, Elena. Pictures of you leaving the house, walking to your car, laughing with your friends. He knew everything. Eleanor's face went pale. He was watching me. He called that morning after you left for work. Said he had a proposition for me. Daniel's voice was flat now, emotionless. Come work for him. Use my computer skills for his organization and you'd be safe. Refuse, and ... He trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. And what? And you'd become a liability. Someone who knew too much about his son's new identity. Daniel's eyes were haunted. He didn't have to spell it out. I knew what he was capable of. Elena was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. The fire popped and hissed, the sound startling in the heavy silence. So you left, she said finally. To protect me. I tried to think of another way. Believe me, I turned it over in my mind 1,000 times. But he made it clear that as long as I stayed in your life, you'd be in danger. So I disappeared, became someone else again. Where did you go? It doesn't matter. Somewhere far away. Somewhere he couldn't find me. Daniel stood up, pacing to the window. The rain had intensified, turning the world outside into a blur of grey and shadow. I've been moving ever since. Never staying in one place too long. Never letting anyone get close. But you came back, Elena said. And there was something in her voice that made him turn around. I came back, he confirmed. I heard through old contacts that my father was dead. Heart attack 6 months ago. I thought, I hoped that maybe it was finally safe to what? To waltz back into my life like nothing happened. Eleanor's anger was returning, but it was mixed with something else now. Something that looked almost like hope. To explain. To tell you the truth. To ask for your forgiveness even though I don't deserve it. Daniel's voice broke slightly. I know I can't undo the hurt I caused. I know I can't take back those 3 years, but I needed you to know that leaving you wasn't a choice. It was survival. Elena stood up and moved to the fireplace, staring into the flames. Her reflection danced in the glass of the mantelpiece, distorted and fragmented. I waited for you, she said quietly. For the first year I waited. I kept thinking you'd come back, that you'd realize you'd made a mistake. I slept on our side of the bed so I wouldn't disturb your side. I kept your coffee mug on the kitchen counter. I even kept paying for your subscriptions just in case. The confession cut through Daniel like a blade. He'd imagined her moving on, finding someone new, being happy. The thought of her waiting, hoping, clinging to the remnants of their life together was almost unbearable. Elena... I went to therapy, she continued, still not turning around. Dr. Morrison said I needed to accept that you weren't coming back, that I needed to let go of the fantasy and move on with my life. She was right, of course. Eventually I did. Did you? Daniel couldn't finish the question, but he didn't need to. Date other people, yes, a few, nice men, stable men. Men who didn't disappear in the middle of the night. Eleanor's laugh was hollow. But none of them were you, Daniel. None of them understood why I needed to check the locks 3 times before bed, or why I couldn't watch romantic movies without crying, or why I kept that stupid coffee mug long after I should have thrown it away. I'm sorry, Daniel said, the words feeling inadequate. I'm so sorry, Elena. For all of it. She finally turned to face him, tears glistening in her eyes. Are you? Are you really sorry? Or are you just sorry you got caught in your father's world? The question hit him like a physical blow. He realized she was right to ask it, right to doubt him. He'd made a unilateral decision to leave, had chosen to sacrifice their relationship rather than trust her with the truth. I'm sorry for leaving, he said carefully. I'm sorry for not telling you the truth from the beginning. I'm sorry for 3 years of silence and pain. But I'm not sorry for protecting you. Given the same choice, I'd do it again. Eleanor's eyes flashed with anger. That's not your choice to make, Daniel. My safety, my life, that's not your decision. He would have killed you, Daniel said flatly. Maybe not immediately, but eventually. You would have become a loose end, and my father doesn't leave loose ends. Then we should have faced it together. We should have gone to the police. Gone. Into hiding, anything but you just disappearing. Eleanor's voice rose with frustration. You didn't protect me, Daniel. You abandoned me. You left me to wonder and worry and blame myself for 3 years. I know, Daniel said quietly. I know I handled it wrong. I was scared and desperate and I thought I was saving you. But I see now that I was just saving myself from having to watch him destroy you. The honesty of the admission seemed to deflate. Eleanor's anger. She sank back into her chair, looking suddenly exhausted. Why now? She asked. Why come back now after all this time? Because I never stopped loving you, Daniel said simply. Because every day for 3 years I've woken up, reaching for you only to remember that you're gone. Because I've tried to move on, tried to build a life without you, and I can't. I won't. Love isn't enough, Elena said, but her voice lacked conviction. Love doesn't erase 3 years of pain. No, it doesn't. But maybe it's enough to start with. Daniel moved closer, not enough to crowd her, but enough to close some of the distance between them. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to take me back. But I need you to know that leaving you was the worst mistake of my life. Elena looked up at him, her eyes searching his face. What do you want from me, Daniel? What do you expect to happen here? I don't know, he admitted. I came here to tell you the truth, to explain why I left. Beyond that ... He shrugged helplessly. I suppose I hoped that maybe, somehow, there might be a chance for us. But I understand if there isn't. There's something else, Elena said suddenly, her voice strange. Something I haven't told you. Daniel felt his heart skip. What? Elena stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the rain-soaked street. I knew, she said quietly. About your father. About who you really were. The words hit Daniel like a physical blow. He stared at her back, unable to process what she was saying. What? I found out about 6 months after you left. I was so desperate to understand why you'd gone that I hired a private investigator. He dug into your past, found out about Thomas Carver and what he'd done. Elena's voice was steady, but Daniel could see the tension in her shoulders. I know about the murders, Daniel. I know about the money laundering, the extortion, all of it. Daniel's world tilted on its axis. Elena, I know about the phone call too. She turned around, her face pale but determined. The investigator had contacts in law enforcement. He found out about the threats against me, about the choice your father gave you. Then why ... Daniel couldn't finish the question. Why didn't I try to find you? Why didn't I tell you I understood? Eleanor's smile was sad. Because I was angry. Hurt. Even understanding why you left didn't change the fact that you didn't trust me enough to tell me the truth. You made a decision about my life without consulting me. Daniel felt as though the ground was shifting beneath his feet. You've known all this time? I've known for 2.5 years. And I've been waiting for you to come back and tell me yourself. Eleanor's voice was quiet but firm. I needed to know if you trusted me enough to be honest with me. Elena, do you know why I locked the door when you came in tonight? She asked, interrupting him. Daniel shook his head, unable to speak. Because I was afraid you'd run again. Afraid that when things got difficult, you'd choose to protect me by leaving rather than trusting me to face the truth with you. Eleanor's eyes were bright with unshed tears. I've been waiting 3 years for you, to choose me over your fear. The revelation left Daniel reeling. She'd known. She'd known everything, and still she'd waited for him to come back, to choose honesty over protection. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry I didn't trust you. I know you are. Elena moved. Closer. Close enough that he could smell her perfume, the same scent that had haunted his dreams for 3 years. That sorry isn't enough anymore, Daniel. I need to know that you won't run again. I need to know that if we try to rebuild this, you'll trust me enough to face whatever comes together. Daniel looked into her eyes, seeing the love that had never really died, the hurt that had never fully healed, and the hope that had somehow survived 3 years of separation. I won't run, he said, his voice steady despite the emotion threatening to overwhelm him. I swear to you, Elena, I'll never run from you again, and you'll tell me the truth, no matter how difficult or dangerous. Yes, always. Elena studied his face for a long moment as if trying to read his soul. Then, slowly, she reached up and touched his cheek. Her fingers were warm against his skin, and Daniel closed his eyes, leaning into her touch. I never stopped loving you. Either, she whispered. Even when I hated you, even when I wanted to forget you existed, I never stopped loving you. Daniel opened his eyes, seeing his own pain and hope reflected in her face. Can you forgive me? Can we try again? I don't know, Elena said honestly. I want to, God, I want to. But I'm scared, Daniel. I'm scared of being hurt again. I'm scared of letting you back into my heart only to have you disappear again. Then we'll take it slow, Daniel said, covering her hand with his. We'll rebuild trust one day at a time. We'll face whatever comes together. I promise you, Elena. I promise. Elena was quiet for a long moment, her thumb tracing gentle circles on his cheek. Outside, the rain was beginning to ease, the violent downpour softening to a gentle patter against the windows. I kept your coffee mug, she said finally, a small smile playing at her lips. It's still in the kitchen cabinet. I couldn't bring myself to throw it away. Daniel felt his heart swell with a mixture of love and regret. I've missed that mug. I've missed our morning coffee. I've missed everything about the life we built together. We can't go back, Elena said softly. Too much has happened. But maybe we can build something new. Something stronger. I'd like that, Daniel said. I'd like that more than anything. Elena leaned into him then, her forehead resting against his chest. Daniel wrapped his arms around her, feeling her warmth, her realness, after 3 years of memories and dreams. I'm still angry with you, she murmured against his shirt. I'm still hurt. It's going to take time to heal. I know. I'll wait as long as it takes. And I'm going to ask you questions. Hard questions about your father, about those 3 years, about everything. I'll answer them all. I promise. Elena pulled back slightly to look at him. No more secrets? No. More secrets, Daniel confirmed. No more running. No more protecting you from the truth. Good. Eleanor's smile was tentative but real. Because I meant what I said about the door. I locked it because I wasn't going to let you leave again without fighting for us. Daniel laughed, the sound rusty from disuse. I wouldn't have left anyway. I can't. I tried for 3 years to build a life without you, and I failed miserably. You're here now, Elena said simply. That's what matters. They held each other in the firelight. 2 people who had loved and lost and found each other again. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be difficult conversations, painful admissions, and the slow work of rebuilding trust. But for the first time in 3 years, Daniel felt something he thought was lost forever. Hope. Elena pulled back and walked to the door, her hand on the lock. I'm going to unlock this now, she said, looking back at him. But I need to know, are you staying? Daniel didn't hesitate. I'm staying. For as long as you'll have me. Elena smiled. The first real smile he'd seen from her all evening. Then welcome home, Daniel Hayes. We have a lot of work to do. As she turned the lock, Daniel heard the click of their future opening up before them. It wouldn't be the same as before. They were different people now, marked by pain and separation. But maybe, just maybe, they could build something even stronger than what they'd lost. The door was unlocked, but neither of them moved to leave. Instead, they stood together, in the warm glow of the fireplace. 2 hearts learning to beat in rhythm again, ready to face whatever tomorrow might bring. Together.